All right, this is another installment of That's Just Ridiculous. This should make you absolutely furious that people are getting ripped off this way, and it should just absolutely make you furious. All right, so as you know, inflation has gone up to 8%, and we have heard no end of complaining. No end of complaining. House interest rates are going up to 7%. No end of complaining. And yet, these very same people are having to use their credit cards, and they think nothing of paying 22% interest on their credit cards. Okay, you want to take a bet on how many subscribers we're going to lose on this one? Oh my.
Oh, well, we have a business left. It's almost as if they don't realize that they're paying that.
Give me a break.
And I don't know why. A part of it is because they're hearing this all over the news. They're hearing about inflation here and there, and so that's in their face. They don't realize all these years they've been paying 20 to 25%, depending on what card they have and what they're buying, for interest.
Yep.
And because they don't see it. I've finally realized what happens is people put that card in at the grocery store, wherever you're going. You don't even realize you're talking on your phone, you're talking to the kids, you're dealing with this or that or the other, talking to the cashier. You don't even realize the full amount that you just spent.
Yep.
You can get out to the car and you won't have a clue of what you just spent with that credit card.
Ordering pizzas.
Yeah, or anything. You just hand the credit card and you don't even look at the price. Then on top of that, people don't look at a bill anymore, because they don't really get it. They kind of can have a paper bill if they want, but it just goes through their bank. The bank just automatically takes it out, the people do.
Look at your bill and see how much just the interest is.
Yeah.
Look at it.
And they have it set up so just the minimum is taken out every month. Heaven forbid we have it set up for them to take extra or to pay, let alone pay it all off at the end of the month half the time, You have no idea what your money's doing, where you're spending it, what you're doing with it. So now all of a sudden everybody's hearing about this inflation. So now we're in a panic. Oh no, I'm hearing something about my money. It's going to be more. I'm going to have to spend more. My bread's gone up, from 89 cents to a whole $1. So let's panic here.
Except they can't find bread for $1, Mom.
But the thing is, you've been paying huge percentage of interest all this time, and it just didn't register.
And then you complain about how you hate your job. You don't want to work this job. And yet, how many days could you take off a year if you weren't paying just the interest on your credit card? So, to put this in perspective, if you have $10,000 credit card, that's give or take $2,000 a year in interest. That is 12 days of work if you make $20 an hour. And actually, it's closer to 16 to 17 days of work by the time you pay for all the expenses, the extra taxes, and all of that on that money. Because it's not $20 take home pay. So it's closer to 16 to 17 days that you could take off a year. 17 days.
Just $10,000.
Just for $10,000.
That doesn't include a $40,000, $50,000 one car. Sometimes two cars for $40,000.
And so people do not put it in this perspective. They're hollering and they're whining about how much they hate their jobs. They wish they could take a vacation. You can take a vacation. Now, I know we're going to get a lot of flack on this. With inflation being so high, we have to use our credit cards. No, you do not have to use your credit cards. Inflation is only 8%. And I know that you think that's really bad. Look at this chart. This is nothing compared to what we have had in history. Look at 1918. Now that's inflation. The problem is you are just making excuses because you don't want to do the work that you need to do. You don't want to cut out the things that you want.
Sacrifice.
You don't want to sacrifice anything. You don't want to make do with anything. You don't want to get rid of anything. It is actually a choice. And you do not have to use your credit cards. Mom has lived on $500 a month with 2 teenagers. Mom lived through the 1970s inflation.
I didn't even know it happened.
And she didn't even have a credit card. It is a choice. And it's your choice if you are going to use that credit card or not.
And this might be a little bit off the subject in one sense, but I've noticed the other day, I was thinking, when you were talking about giving up stuff or, having to do without and things, people don't think to fix things anymore. You know,
Yeah.
if something gets broken, instead of looking at it and thinking, can I fix this somehow, or make do with something else, but can I fix this somehow, they just throw it out instead of trying to make do, you know, and fix it. We've cleaned schools before, Tara and I have, and I've done the trash, and I am absolutely appalled about all the stuff that those kids put in that trash for pens and notebooks and folders and paper.
Lunchables, soda cans, juice boxes.
Perfectly good shape, some of them. Some of them, the pencil just had the end broken. They were thrown away in this trash. I remember, of course, I'm sounding like an old lady. I remember when.
You are 70, Mom.
I remember when. But
your daughter's 50.
we never used a good sheet of notebook paper. Tara got some at a garage sale the other day. We wouldn't take a brand new sheet of notebook paper and scribble a problem on it that we were going to just try to figure out. We would use scratch paper. You would use scratch paper. That's what you kept scratch paper in your notebook
People don't
for.
even know what that is
They
anymore.
don't even know what scratch paper is. It's the back of an old test, you know, that was blank, that you could just write something. Just
old envelopes.
Yeah, old envelopes, things like that. We wouldn't dream of using a new piece. We got one pack of notebook paper like for a school year, and you made that last. And so we don't try to use our stuff properly. We break them and we don't try to fix them. Yeah. You need to change the way you're thinking. Stop hollering about how much inflation is. So what? You're going to have to adapt and overcome. That's the bottom line.
And stop hollering about how inflation is so high, but yet you're paying 22% on your credit cards. That's just ridiculous.
It doesn't even calculate.
No.
Like make sense at all on no level.
Yeah. You need to really think about this. So what are some solutions? I'm interrupting real quick to let you guys know that our huge yearly undated planners, they are for sale now. We only have the tropical cover this time, but we have them for sale. We expect them to ship around December 10th. So go to the description below for all of you who are asking and begging for our undated planners. They are for sale now. So what are some solutions? Stop eating out, period. Yeah, I am just flabbergasted. Mike and I went out on our taco date the other night, the only eating out we're doing now, where we share a plate of fajitas. I guess we need to call it a fajita date because it's not technically a taco date anymore. It's not. But the restaurant was full. Oh, yeah. We had to wait like a half an hour to get a seat because it was for our $18 tacos, which are fajitas, which is ridiculous for one plate, but it's all we do for entertainment. So I was like, are you kidding me? All these hard economic times.
I drive from my house to Tara's house, and the whole route I take, all the way is fast foods and restaurants. I hit every restaurant, I think, in town from her house to my house is on my pathway. They are full all the time. I go at 7:30 at night downtown through town to go home, and I kept saying to the kids, why are all these cars lined up on Main Street at 7:30 at night when the stores are closed? They're at restaurants eating. Yeah, they're full. They're just full.
Full. And I mean, cut it out. Cut out the Lunchables. Kids can have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at school. It's not going to hurt them.
Another thing, we don't mention this too often. Stop going to the store as much. Yep. Don't just automatically 2 or 3 times a week stop on your way home from work, or you're short of one thing, so you're just going to run in and get that one thing. Yep. Every time you go to that store, you probably are spending more than you need to spend. If you start going to the store just once a month, and it's doable. Trust me, you can do this. You may have to juggle some things. You may have to change your menu for one night to something different, but you can just go to the store once a month. And that will save you money because you're not buying all these, like 12 different times you went to the store and added extra stuff to it that you maybe could have gotten by with.
Yeah. Stop making ridiculously fancy meals with pre-made stuff.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
You do not need the pre-chopped vegetables. It takes literally 2 minutes to chop up a salad. Literally 2 minutes. Get rid of the car that has the car payment. Used cars right now are through the roof. Sell your expensive car and get a less expensive used car. Sell your $40,000 car and get a $5,000 or $6,000 car.
If you have to take a bus for a while.
Yeah,
you don't maybe have to do it forever.
Or ride a bike.
Ride a bike, something.
Yeah. Actually, and think about it. Taking a taxi or an Uber or Lyft, would it be cheaper?
Yeah.
Than having that car?
You pay the insurance, the expensive tags, you know, and the payment on the car and the gas for the car.
Yeah. You are going to have
Put pen to paper, add this stuff up.
Yeah.
You've got to start figuring. That's another thing. You've got to figure this stuff. Don't just have airy what you've heard everybody else say is happening. Figure for yourself personally. Get your money out, the paperwork out, and start adding and subtracting and figuring.
You are paying for your convenience. And you need to just admit that you're paying for your convenience. But think about this. You're not just paying for your convenience. You're paying 22% more for that convenience because you're putting it on your credit card. That $100 worth of groceries that is all convenience food, the juice boxes, the Lunchables, the pre-cut up watermelon, all those kinds of things, that $100, you're actually paying $122 for that.
Yeah.
But you don't want to admit it. You're working an extra hour and a half at work just to pay for the convenience of using the credit card. That doesn't even include the extra $50 that you're paying for the convenience of the already cut up foods.
Yeah.
You're working 3 to 4 hours for that food that could be $50, but you're paying an extra $72
because you
more
don't
for
have
that.
time to cut that up, so you're working that much extra time.
It doesn't even make sense. It's absolutely ridiculous.
That's what I keep saying. People are not thinking this through. They're just listening to and following what everybody else is doing. Put your pen to paper and figure this stuff out. And I mean, go into detail. Like they say, it's cheaper to bake bread. Let's just use that. And sometimes maybe it is, you know, maybe now it's a little bit cheaper. But at one point I had to figure out, was it cheaper for me to make my bread? I sat down, I added up every bit of the ingredients that I was going to use. I then figured out how much it was going to cost for to use the stove to bake that bread in. I had to wash those dishes and use hot water and soap to clean up the kitchen from baking that bread. You've got to get this down now and get this stuff figured out into little detail. Just don't say, well, my ingredients wasn't that much to make the bread. Well, there's more to it than ingredients, you know. And could I, with the time that I did making that bread, could I do something else that would be saving a little bit of money with that time and getting me more money than baking the bread? You have to start using your head. Don't just have this zombie mentality that you're going along with what everybody else is saying to do.
And it's the corporation's fault. It's the government's fault.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not the government's. It is flat out the government's fault that this inflation is this high. I get that. But it's still our responsibility to figure out what we're going to do with it.
Yeah.
You voted him in. That's the consequences that you get. If you didn't vote him in, that's still the consequences that you get for other people's stupidity. But it's your job to say, what am I going to do now that I have this situation?
For myself and my money, no matter what's happening in the
And
world.
using the credit cards is not it.
Yeah.
It is not the answer. So you need to get a second and a third job and get those credit cards paid off. You need to cut back all of your expenses to the bare minimum. Turn your heat down from 72 to 78 down to 60 to 65. It'll be chilly, but you just got to put on a sweater. And do these things and get yourself out of debt. And then you will not have to worry about if you're going to be able to pay your bills or not. Guys, go watch this video next on how to save more money. Visit us at livingonadime.com.
Bye-bye.